Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Organized Planner Chic. I'm Lucinda, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do so and select the bell for notifications. Of course, this isn't my normal content of planning, journaling, junk journaling, arts and crafts, and all that good stuff, and related shopping hauls, but this is a continuing series of the cancer journey from a spouse's perspective. But before I get into that, I want to thank all my Patreon members who help make it possible to create videos like this. And I apologize, in the last video, I had it handwritten and held it up and didn't even think about how that was going to be flipped, a reverse image. So I apologize. But I'm just going to say their first names today. And they are Lucille, Ryan, Destiny, Keith, Shamika, Joyce, Allison, Lepton Cork, which won't be anymore because that was my husband's company, Joyce, and Cal. Thank you guys so much. And if you're interested in supporting me on Patreon, just go to patreon.com/organizedplannerchic. Okay, you guys, by now, most of you know that my husband passed away actually 2 weeks ago today. And people are amazed a lot of times that I'm able to do these videos and talk about things, but don't misunderstand and think that I don't cry, because I do. Every morning when I wake up and I know my husband is not there and that he's not going to be there, I get mad. I get mad at God and talk to him about how he could have healed him, because so many other people, I mean, every person that I'm aware of in our lives who has this disease has entered remission, and a lot of them have received stem cell transplants and celebrate years of that. And so I get mad. And then I remember the book of Job, the entire book of Job, which I will share more about at the service, and I'll talk about that at the end. And then I'm just not mad anymore. I say, okay, God, I'm sorry. And then I have, in the beginning, the first few days, well, the first week and a half, really, I would feel like, why is everybody else doing well with this? And I felt like God said, well, would you rather it have been one of them? And I'm like, no, it could have been none of them. But then I remember the book of Job again. And I'm just like, you're right, God, I don't know everything. I don't understand everything. Anyway, I don't want to get a lot into that, but I just wanted to say that I do have a hard time when I wake up in the morning. And then in the morning, I'm more angry and not for a long time. Like I said, I have these brief conversations with God, and then I'm not angry anymore, but then I'm disappointed. I'm just really disappointed that he's not going to be there, because he was my best friend. And I won't get to have time with him anymore. And then at night, when everything slows down, when it's time to wind down for bed, then I get sad. And I miss him the most. But I'll come back to that, about the fact that I am okay, that between when I wake up and I have that brief conversation about being angry with God, and when I get ready to go to bed, I do really well. And I'll talk about that in the end as to why that is, and why it is that people are always like, wow, how are you doing so well? How are you handling business and stuff. So, but I wanted to kind of wrap up that process of fighting, because you guys, most of you saw the posts about him becoming brain dead and so forth. So some of the things that I had to fight when he got in intensive care, which I know I shared some of those in the videos, but I think the last major one that I want to share that kept happening when I was there is doctors, except for, well, the doctors that were stellar, they were from neurology. They were awesome. They celebrated every victory with me as he was coming out of the medically induced coma or sedation and intubation. They, said it's going to take a while. If when he would do something new, respond to pain, then, wrinkle his eyebrows and, cough from the tubes, they say, oh, little baby steps. Oh, he did that today. They never were discouraging. They were honest, but they celebrated those little things. But, and I would say 90% of or maybe 98% of the nurses were positive in that way as well, but then I had a couple nurses, but one in particular that would just knock down everything I wanted to celebrate. She'd be like, well, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna celebrate this, and try to get me to worry about things that could happen when they weren't happening. And I'd say, no, I'm not gonna worry about that. Always respectfully, no, not going, well, I just want, no, one step at a time. If that becomes something I need to be concerned with, I will. But it's not right now. So I'm going to focus on what's happening right now. And they got to where I didn't ask her any questions anymore at all. And when she would ask me if I had any questions, I'd say no. If I needed anything, no, I'm good, because she was just crushing. Woo, Lord. And then I had several doctors. One thing I wanted to say, obviously I'm not a doctor. I don't know what it's like to be a doctor that deals with people in the ICU. I don't pretend to know. I do have several people in my family, including a brother and his wife, my sister-in-law, and a first cousin who've all been nurses for over 20 years. I have a brother-in-law who's a doctor. And but no, I have not been. I have not done that, so I understand. I don't know what it's like to work that way every day. But although you might, as a professional, need to be concerned or need to deal with multiple patients in a day, I, as the caregiver and spouse of a patient, do not. I am concerned about my husband and our situation, because that is what I am supposed to do. And so while I understand that you have to sort of balance that, when you deal with me, when you deal with my husband, when you deal with us in his room, which I slept in the whole time that he was in ICU, when it's us, you need to be talking to just us and responding to just what we're saying to you. So these people kept trying to, not all but, in different words, but all saying the same thing, were trying to get me to give up on my husband while he was still breathing and still had brain activity. This is before he went brain dead. And I don't know I don't know them. I can't say I can swear to their intentions, but the way that it was communicated to me was suggesting very strongly that I needed to give up and let go, because he probably wasn't going to be okay. And that's not I don't need you to tell me to give up. My hope is my hope, not yours. If you, in your professional opinion and your experience believe that that is going to be the end result, that's you. If you want to feel that, okay. But I don't need you to keep coming to me or sending different people to my room to tell me the same thing, that that's what I need to do, because my hope is mine. You know, I had to say, I said it different ways, always politely, always kindly, you know, even though I guess I didn't, you know, people would say, well, you don't need to be kind. Well, I'm still responsible for my behavior. And so I would respectfully say, we're going to stay the course. That's what we're going to do. You know, he's not, he was not deemed terminal at that point. No one had said that. Once, if it was always, if he comes out of this, then we will try these other treatments for the myeloma. Always. There was never, he's terminal. He was not in a vegetative state. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he was coming out of an induced state. And so then, but different ones said, and one of them was actually rude. And I felt like they were trying to say to me, and not only that, brought in multiple people with them, multiple professionals with them. I don't know, almost like a gang, not like a violent gang, but almost like a group to provide support for them, is what it felt like, for them to be able to say what they were saying to me. And I just said, I'm not burying my husband until he's dead. And I don't care who you send in here. You can tell them the same thing. While my husband is alive, I want you to take care of him. That's why he's here. And I said at different times to different folks that they brought into the room, like I've always said, my position is that my God can and my God will. But even if he doesn't, I will still serve him. I know he's sovereign. I know it's up to him. But if I believe in a big God, then how can I say this problem is too big for him? So I'm standing. And, you know, even if you're watching this video and you feel like, well, your husband did pass away. Well, Jesus said people are going to live and people are going to die. People are going to get sick. Those things are going to happen. That's part of this world. But he also is a healer and does heal people who are in these situations. And I can name multiple examples, but my favorite are my twin nieces, who were born at 23 weeks. My brother could hold both of them in the palm of one hand when they were born. And they had a lot of issues and multiple surgeries. And one of them was in a worse state than my husband was. Seriously. I don't want to give all the details because I want to respect her. But worse than my husband was. When they were telling my sister-in-law, because she's a nurse and works in labor and delivery, that you know how this is going to turn out. You know better. Calling social services to come talk to her, to help her see reason. All but saying that she's going to die. Same thing me. Actually, one of those doctors actually used those words to me. But, she stood, having had loss in other areas of her life and other members, but she stood, same position. I mean, she didn't say these words. You know, these are the words I used came from Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who went into the fiery furnace. And before they went, they told Nebuchadnezzar, our God can, our God will, and even if he doesn't, we will not serve other gods. And they were delivered. I mean, God's going to do what God's going to do. But I am always going to trust that he can, because he can. And he has demonstrated that over and over, not just in the word, but in people's lives every day. Those same people in the hospital have seen that. True, 9 times out of 10, that's not the result. But what about that 10th time? I'm going to give God the glory. So That was the biggest battle in the ICU. And the other one, I posted and asked you guys to pray because his platelets had dropped. And there was a standing order, and they did not replace them for like 12 hours. Ooh, I don't even want to relive all that. So, everybody out there, medical professionals, I don't know what they training you do. And again, I'm not trying to judge what your days are like or the challenges of you being in these situations. And maybe you have people that you feel like just are, what is the word I'm looking for? Not delirious. Gosh, I've used this word a million times and now I can't think of it. But my mind was clear. I was sane. Delusional. I was not delusional. I knew the severity of the situation. I knew my husband's condition. I've been was in this journey with him the whole time. That doesn't change the power and the healing power and the sovereignty of God. So also from a spouse's perspective is they had like a little nook, a suite right there in the room, and I moved in there for 2 weeks while he was there, so I could be there constantly. I would only leave if someone else was coming to visit and could spend time with him, and I would do that all over again. I was in fight mode the whole time, fighting the disease, being there for him. And there are times where it was really hard. It was exhausting. We were in the ER all the time, and I would get no sleep, and I would just be frustrated with the people and the nurses and the really not so much the nurses in the ER and stuff, but sometimes yes. And don't get me wrong, this is not a nurse bashing session. Like I said earlier, 98% of the time, the nurses were fantastic. I don't remember if I said it, but neurology at the hospital where he had ICU was fantastic, stellar. The first nurse that we had in the ICU, amazing. In fact, I need to go back and put her in for a Daisy Award because she was absolutely amazing. But those doctors in the ICU, I want to say this. So again, all neurology, the doctors and nurse practitioners were awesome. The nephrology for his kidneys were really, really good as well. The infectious disease doctor, because he got hospital-acquired pneumonia, which is what got him back in the hospital in the end. Wonderful. Yeah, so I want to make it clear, I'm not trying to bash. But the ones who were trying to speak for other departments, I experienced that the whole time with his cancer. Oncologists telling me stuff for his kidneys and telling us stuff for his heart and all these things, and then it would turn out to not be right because guess what? They weren't that oncologist was not a nephrologist, was not a cardiologist, was not an infectious disease doctor, and then you start receiving and processing that information and applying it to you and getting nervous and stressed out about it, and they don't know what they're talking about. Like, why do that? So again, overwhelmingly, most people were great, but the ones who crossed the line really crossed them. And so I guess I said all that to say that my job was to be an advocate for my husband, and I was, but I constantly had to advocate in areas where I shouldn't have had to the degree that I had to. And it made me, especially when he was in ICU, really have a heart. Really have a heart and a yearning to help the people who have no one to advocate for them. I'm positive my husband wouldn't have lasted through this fight as long as he did, had he not had me to advocate for him. And I'm not trying to say I was the greatest advocate in the world. I'm just saying, without one, there's just like, I don't know how you could possibly make it. Because it's like some of the professionals, they're, I yeah. So I forgot what I said I was going to say in the beginning about, oh, I'll just say this. So, the service, the memorial, the local memorial is on Saturday. And I'm going to film it, not do it live though, because the Wi-Fi there is sketchy. Um, so I will record and upload it later for this channel and for our church channel, A Place Along the Way. But I wanted to wrap this session up with this, and I probably will have more videos on this playlist before I get back to my regular content, because there's just a lot. But I want to say that my faith is strong. My faith is not shaken by losing my amazing husband. I know that he is doing wonderfully, that he is so happy and free and in love with Jesus, and just, I can't even imagine. And in some respects, I'm jealous of him for that. I can almost see him up there just going, honey, it's okay. Although there's, the Bible says there's no husband and wife in heaven, but I can just see him being like, it's really cool here. I'm really happy, but I miss him. He's my best friend. I miss him. Thank you guys so much for watching today. Please take care of your mind, body, and spirit, because when one area suffers, they all suffer. Please continue to pray for me, and I'll continue to pray for you. And until next time, everyone, happy planning.